from District 8 with the Bill 1327 Home and Hospital Teaching Program for Student report. In short, this bill would create a group to study the home and hospital teaching program here in our state and determine if enough is being done to reintegrate students back into traditional schools. The home and hospital program is an educational service for students who have medical, physical, and or disciplinary challenges. When students are experiencing physical or emotional condition that make it impossible for them to attend school, this program lets them continue their education. However, the program must be improved. And needless to say, in the last 2 years, we have all been on a crash course in virtual instruction and learning from home. As it exists now, the program does not prepare students for reintegration into a classroom learning environment, especially in the cases presented by students whose behavior or emotional condition makes it difficult for them to attend school. These students remain out of school for excessive periods of time, and often when they do return to a classroom, the school is not prepared with an adequate re-entry plan. This is not just traumatic for the student, but it is traumatic for everyone around them. The goals of this bill, which passed the House unanimously in 2019, are fivefold: to require the Maryland State Department of Education to assess whether a student in home and hospital teaching program are receiving adequate support and instruction time to successfully transition back to classroom; to require the Department of Education to analyze whether local school system have sufficient staffing to coordinate instructional services for students; to study whether transition plan for student returning to the classroom should be implemented, and if so, the viability of having school counselor lead and develop those plans; to assess whether any transition plans should be reviewed or evaluated by a licensed medical professional prior to implementation; and to make recommendation regarding any regulatory changes to the home and hospital teaching program for students. On and off, during the last 2 years, students have been learning away from the classroom. I think it is a fair to say that there are some things we have learned regarding education outside of a classroom setting that can be used to bolster the home and hospital program. We need to see exactly where the program struggle so that we may address those difficulties as efficiently and mindfully as possible in the future. In light of all this, I request a favorable report.
Thank you. And next for 2 minutes, Dana Bergman, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Diana Bergman, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself as an individual and not as my committee that I serve on in Seaside, California. I am actually the only parent in Baltimore County Public Schools history to have all 3 children participate in the home and hospital program for an extended amount of time. In addition to the challenges that we all face due to COVID, one of those children ended up returning back into the home and hospital program. Because of my husband's service in the U.S. Army, my child that was in home and hospital transitioned due to military service. Now, military children are supported under the Interstate Compact Act. Maryland State was one of the first states to actually sign on to that act to protect military children when they have to move due to no fault of their own and their parents' service to this country. Now, what I know from experience is a lot of the communication of what that program entailed for supporting the child did not get transferred over into the new state. And it kind of hurt my child accessing and meeting his social and emotional needs. Now, this is going to be a problem because if you look at all 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland, they don't communicate with each other as far as the home and hospital program on how is it uniquely catered in each jurisdiction. And this is a program that students need to have, and we have the responsibility to be good stewards to protect these very vulnerable students, to make sure that we're being adequate and equally distributing and access to these services, and that communication is there for that successful transition. Because if we don't work and do that together, we're all failing them. So I hope that there is a favorable vote from everybody here to support children, not just in Maryland, but supporting them and providing those additional details if they have to move cross country or to a different state. Thank you.
Are any questions? Delegate Boatler, is your hand from before? Okay. Okay, seeing no questions. Thank you, Delegate Bhandari. That concludes the testimony on House Bill 1327.